Now let me show you a demo of the application that we'll be building. So it's a book management app built with React, then Firebase, and we are using Tailwind CSS for style. And for the API, we are using Google Books API. So we have this login screen and we also have register screen. So user can register to Firebase. We are using Firebase database. So you can register and log in. So let's register one user. So let's say Alex. So you can register using email password. Alexa and 123. Click on register. You can see once register, you will be redirected to the dashboard. Now here you have this search box where you can search for the books, Google Books, as well as there is a wish list page. So we have this nice design of dashboard. Wishlist currently wishlist is empty because we have just created this account, and you can also see the logged in user email. So now let's search for some books. So I'll say Batman, click on enter, or you can click on the search button. You can see a nice list of books from Google Books API is displayed. So I can add each of the book to the wish list. You can see there is nice hover effect also with border and the little shadow, and we also have pagination. So currently this is page 1, so previous button is disabled. I can click on next and next set of images are loaded. You can see. So I can again click on next and you see a next set of images. So I can select any of the book. Let's say I am adding this add to wish list. Now you can see as soon as I click, you get this added to wish list, and now I cannot add that again. And you also saw that there is a toast notification. So let me go back to the previous page, and I can add this to wish list. You can see there is nice toast notification is also displayed. I can add these couple of books to this particular wish list. So this logged in user Alex, so each user has separate wish list. So we have separate accounts. So we are using Firebase authentication. So and all the data is also stored. All the wish list data is also stored in that Firebase database. So you can see a nice list of wish lists. Here also we have this hover effect, and you can also see the details page. So either from the dashboard page, I can click on the individual book. You can see a nice detailed book is displayed. So this is the details page, and this all the HTML formatted content is displayed. So by default, React does not allow displaying HTML content. So you will learn how to do that. So everything we are using Redux Toolkit for managing state of the entire application. So we also have preview book button. So once I click on this, you can preview that book on Google Books. So you can see this more information. Some books might also have a buy option. So if I go to, so I can click on this Batman Robin one, and you can see there is a buy book option also. So some books you can buy also. So I can click on buy book and you will be navigated to Google Play where you can purchase that. So we have this nicely designed details page, and each user will have a unique list of wish list. So I can delete individual book also from wish list. So you can see there is nice hover effect. I can click on this and we have nice animation here. So the book does not get immediately deleted. So once we click, you can see there is smooth animation, and you also see toast notification for that. And this is for this particular Alex. So I also created another user. So you can also log in with another account, or you can create register with Google. So I will click on register with Google. So you will be redirected and asked to log in, choose your account. So I will select one of the account. And once selected, you can see you will land on again dashboard. So this is logged in with this particular email. So this user don't have wishlist. This is entirely different from that previous user. So I can search for Joker, and you will see again nice list of books. I can go to the next page. I can add this also. So I can come back and I can see these are already added. Come go to next page. You can see it's maintained. So because we are storing everything in the Redux. So we are using Redux Toolkit, which is the latest and recommended way to use Redux. You can see now on wishlist also we have this. I can remove this. So if I go here, if you see this is Batman White Knight, go to here and I can remove this. So as soon as I remove this on the dashboard, if you go, you can see you can again add this. So it's completely responsive and you will get immediate feedback. So we are using Firebase real-time database. You will also learn how to browse the documentation of Firebase. So the documentation of Firebase is not good. You will spend hours to find out how to get something done. So you will learn a nice trick using which you can easily find out any information that you want. So I can add a couple of more books and you can see nice those notification, and these are sorted by the latest added. So whatever you add latest, so let me add this Joker man who stopped. Once I click, you can see you cannot add that again. And this is the latest one we added. So if I go to which list, you can see this is displayed first. So we are sorting this by the latest one added. You can also see the wish list date. So we are sorting by the wish list date. You also have, so here also you can go to the details page and see more information about that. So we have this nicely designed details page. You will also learn how to implement this pagination from scratch. So we are not using any external library for that. Once this is done, you will also learn how to deploy this application to Firebase. So we will deploy this application from scratch to the Firebase, and you will learn the steps of how to deploy it from scratch. This application is completely responsive because we are using Tailwind CSS. So if you can see, it's completely responsive on mobile devices. So it turns into this particular horizontal menu. So when I increase the width, you can see it automatically adjusts as per the width of that particular device. So this is completely responsive. So I can search for Joker and you can see it's completely working. So I can add this to add it to wish list and you can see this toast notification, go to wish list and the latest one added is displayed here. I can delete it. You can also go to the details page. So this entire application is responsive along with the details page. So this is completely responsive. So you will learn how to build this entire application using Firebase as the database with real-time update. So anytime you update something or data changes in the server, it automatically gets updated in the application itself. So you don't need to refresh that data again. So, and you will also learn how to use the authentication, Google authentication, as well as emails and password authentication. So you will learn all of this, and all this is, we also have protected routes here. So as we are logged out, you cannot access any of the other logged in pages. You can see dashboard, I am not able to access. Cannot access wishlist page also. So as we are logged out, you can only access login and register page. But if I log in, now you cannot access login page because you are already logged in. So you will be automatically redirected to dashboard. You, if I try to access, you can see wish list is working. Here, this user don't have any item in the wish list. So I cannot go back to register also. I cannot go to login page because you are already logged in. So you will learn how to add this functionality of building the protected route. So this is common requirement in any of the application. So logged in user should not be able to do any operation API call related work also he should not be able to do. So I should not see the added wish list also. So you will learn how to add this particular wish list to that particular specific user. So each user will have separate wish list. So I can search for Batman and I can add any book to the wish list. So this wish list is specific to this logged in user. So anytime you refresh or you log out and come back, you will have the same wish list in the same order because we are sorting this. So you will also learn how to do sorting, filtering. So only for logged in user, you should get the this wish list data. So this is specific to this user. You will not see wish list data for another user. So you will understand how to do this. So I hope you will learn a lot of things in this application. So let's start building this application. Let's create a new project from scratch. So we'll use Vue.js, npm create Vue, and I can say book management app. Let's add Firebase the beginning, select React and then Java. Now I can cd into Firebase book management tab, and I will open this in VS. Now we have this default application created, but we don't have any node modules. So first, make sure to install all the packages using npm install. So it will read all the packages from package.json, React DOM, and this will get this installed. So dev dependency also gets installed on local machine. When you deploy, dev dependency does not get installed. So now let's remove the unnecessary code. So I will remove app.css from here. I'll remove all the content, and I will remove here also. Let's create a boilerplate code. Now index.css, here also I will remove everything from here. So we'll not be writing all the inline CSS. So with Tailwind CSS, you have to write all the inline CSS. But to save time and avoid wasting that time, I have already created the index.css. So I will paste it here. So for each of the file, I have created separate CSS, which you can directly use. So all these classes you can directly use. So you don't have to worry about writing these long list of classes and wasting time. So, but when you are actually working in any project, you should write it inline only. To save our time, I have already created all this code. So now first thing is we need to set up Tailwind CSS. So all the packages are installed. So let's go to Tailwind CSS. Get started. So always follow documentation for installation. Now click on framework guides and click on Vite as we are using widget. So let's copy this and I will paste it here. So this gets overwritten with this. So we'll copy that CSS again. Now when this is done, we need to make this change in Tailwind config. So I will replace this entire file with this copied content. Now we'll copy this index.css. Yeah, we have all the index.css already created. So let me delete this app.css, which we don't want. Now this is already copied. Let's copy this app.jsx so we can see Tailwind is working. This is your old application, demo application. Let's start this one. This is running on 5174. So you can see this is book management app, which is demo, and this is our current one. So you can see the styles are getting applied, Tailwind CSS. I can also do text center. So it will be in the center. So all the Tailwind is working. So now we need to install a couple of packages. So first npm install, we'll install React Router DOM. We'll also install Axios. And we are also using Redux Toolkit. So make sure to install Redux.js/toolkit as well as React Redux. So these are the necessary packages we are using. So Axios is used for making API call to the Google Books API. Now let's start the application again. And we can set up initial routes. So inside the app.jsx, instead of this, so here I will create browser router from React router down. And inside that we always need routes. And inside that we usually create all the route. Well, includes a route. So inside this browser router, let's add some div so we can style it better. So these classes we have already created a router container. So if you go inside index.css and search for this, you can see these classes are already there. So we are just using that, so it will save our time. And inside this, let's create some components. So let's create components folder. And here we'll create sidebar. So we have sidebar. Let's create boilerplate code. We'll have dashboard. Then we'll have wishlist page. So now after wishlist, we'll have login also. And we'll have register. Now inside that, we can use this. So inside this router counter container, we'll have sidebar. Let me open sidebar, so the suggestion will come. So the sidebar will always be displayed if you are logged in. If you are not logged in, we'll be hiding that. So we'll add that code to hide it inside this sidebar component. So we'll see that later. So now all these routes will add in a container, content container. So it will be main content, and inside it we'll add the route. So by default, the path will be slash. So when you access the application, which page I want to display. So for now, we'll display dashboard component. Let's open dashboard, get suggestion. And for others, let's create login. Then we'll have a register. So we already know all how to use React Router. If you are not aware, you can watch my React version 6 related code. So login, we'll also have wishlist. Let's know this about wishlist. Why suggestions are not coming without opening. Let's also create dashboard page separately. And instead of referencing dashboard directly, we'll navigate to slash that. So when you access slash route or when you access the application, you will be automatically redirected to dashboard. So here you will be adding some conditions. So if user access slash, if it's not logged in, he will be navigated to login page. So we'll add that later. And always, whenever you define routes, always make sure to add a default route. So path equal to star. So if you access some invalid route, you will should not see a blank page. So we'll navigate back to dashboard. We'll use navigate to again slash. So depending on the page, you will redirect to login or dashboard. So now we have created all the routes. Now we have route here. All the pages are already created. Let's also create one more page for book details page. Slash colon ID. So this will be dynamic. So for, you will get each book will have a unique ID. So we'll go to book details page. Let's create that page, book details .js. So we have created all the pages. Now let's go inside the sidebar. Let me close all other files. Now let's create the sidebar. So here for this, let's give some class. We'll call it sidebar container. So everything, each component will have a particular container inside which we can add the styling or content of that. And here we'll add a new div. And yeah, this H2 is fine. And for the sidebar, we'll display book management. So if you see the final application, you can see book management is displayed on the left side, and we can see it here also. Now let's add some styling to this. I'll give sidebar type. Now you can see it's displaying picture, and we have this dashboard content displayed on the right. So depending on the page, if I go to login, you will see login. So by default on login will not be displaying sidebar. So we will handle that later once we add route protection and authentication. So now when you directly go to slash, you can see you are redirected to dashboard. So that's the code we added in app. So when you directly hit slash, you will be redirected to dashboard. And if you access any other page, let's say help, you will be again redirected to dashboard. So that this last route, which is very important. Now we have this heading. Now after this, let's add a link here. So when you click on this, it will redirect the home page, which is our slash. So this link is from React Router. So when I am on any other page and I click, let's say I'm on login, or let's say wishlist page. And when I click on this link, I will be redirected to the dashboard. So it's a always good thing to redirect when you click on the title or there will be some icon, logo. So now we have this heading here. Let's add navigation. Inside nav, we can add an unordered list. So if you see here, we have dashboard, wish list. So if we add multiple extra pages here, it's always good to create constant instead of repeating the same classes and everything again and again. So let's create inside SRC, I will create utils folder, and inside it, I will create constants.js. So it's a JavaScript. We will not be having any JS export. So I will export const menu items. So what will be displaying? It will be array of object. So it will have label. So let's say first is dashboard, and path will be slash dashboard. Now let me duplicate this. This will be wishlist slash wishlist, and we'll have logout. We'll go to slash only because we'll be adding code for the on-click handler to redirect to login page. So now these are the menu items. Let's loop over it. Give some class of menu list. So it will be styled nicely. And we have these menu items. We import it from utils constants and dot map for each of the menu item will display something. So let's return a div. This is unorderly, so let's return li. And you can see we are getting this warning, so you always need key. For now, I will disable the ESLint extension, so you will not see red warning all the time. We'll enable that later. It's very important to enable ESLint extension, so we'll get useful suggestion. You will see that later. But for now, I don't want to see any red lines immediately. So now this li, you always need a key. So what is the key here? Constant. You can use label as the key. So you don't need ID here because this label will always be unique. You will not have duplicate menu items. So I can use menu item dot label. We can also destructure directly label and path. So we don't need to refer menu item all the time. And here we'll display this label. And this label for this li, instead of directly displaying label, let's add nav link. And inside this nav link, we can add one more div inside that div. So when I click on that link, we'll be redirected to that particular path, so which we have defined here, either slash dashboard or slash wishlist, depending on that label name. And for this nav link, let's give some class of menu item. And for this menu item content. All these classes we have already seen, it's already included here. So depending on the file name, you can see sidebar.jsx. So if you want to find out any CSS specific to, let's say, book details, so I can just search for book details.jsx. You can see CSS, all book details page related CSS, you will find it here. So you can easily find out if you need any of the CSS. So this is menu item content. So if I search, you can see it's just applying flex. So those elements will be side by side. Let's go to sidebar. So here we'll have label, and along with this label, we'll also have, so let's see how it displays. So right now you can see we are able to see this list, but we also need some icons. You can see there is icon, home icon, this heart icon. So let's install a library, React icons. So it's very popular library. So with React, usually you will be using React more. You can just search for React icons. So this is the most popular library for all of the icons. If you want to see all the icons, you can directly go to the website. Let's search for React icons. And here you can see all the icons. So let's say I want to search for home. You can just type home and you will see all the home related icons. You just need to copy that icon with that particular name, and this is how we import it. So you need to see whether you are using box icon or design icon. So each of them will have starting with BI. So /BI. So you can see the package is installed. Now again, let's go to constant, and here we'll have that icon. So let's say FA home. You can see once you type this, you can see that it's FA home. You can just click on this and it will be added. So this is the icon. Let me add this. Let's add here also. You can say FA, it should be FI, not FA. For this, I'll add FI heart, and this will be FI 4. Make sure to import from FI, not FA. And for this logout, you can add logout related icon. Let's say icon FI logout. And here, in addition to a label, will display icon. So if we check, let's see what warning we are getting error. Unexpected token. So there is some error here. Let's refresh. Oh, this we are using JSX. So this file should not be JS, it should be JSX. So whenever you use any JSX content, you should use JSX extension and make sure to restart. So whenever you make any file change, extension change, make sure to restart so it will detect that. Now you can see these icons are getting displayed, but these are not looking like there should be some spacing. So let's style this. So for this, we'll give margin right 3 and text, let's say Excel. Let's copy this for all of this. And now you can see it looking better. So when I click on this, you see this fit and there is no error. Let me close this. Now you can see it displays better. So if you see when I click on this, it automatically adds that class of purple. How this is adding? So we are using navlink here. So when you have using navlink and there is an active class. So inside this, if you see active, not here. If I search for dot active, you can see for each of the menu item. So this has added a menu item class, and which is the navlink. So when you have active class like this, that particular active class will be automatically added when you are on that particular route. You can see it's automatically added. So right now I have added that manually. That's why it's highlighting all the. But depending on the route, so here I have active class. I am giving rounded MD and BG purple 500. So depending on the route, so I am on the wish list, so it automatically highlights wish list. If I'm on dashboard, it automatically highlights that. So that is the functionality of navlink. So if you use link here instead of navlink, it will not work. So if I import this link, save this, you can see it's not highlighted. So even after clicking. So if you have active class and if you are using navlink, it will automatically add that active class. So you don't need to manually add that. So that's the power of React Router version 6. So you automatically gets highlighting here. So now we have this left section. Let's implement the right side of this particular page. So let's go to the, let's also add the below code like logged in with email. Right now we don't have anything, but still we can add some placeholder text here. So inside sidebar, so after this div, so this div is this particular div. So after this div, let's add one more div. And here we can say, let's add one more div. New class of user info. And paragraph logged in with email. For this, let's give user info text. So you can see logged in with email is this. Let's style this text MD. Oh, there is no MD. Let's not style this. Let's add one more div paragraph, and here we can display. For now, we'll hard code it. It was made, right? So let's use made. You can see this is displayed. Let's make it smaller. Let's say user email. Now it's a bit smaller, which looks nice. So we have this user info and all the information of the site. Now let's add the dashboard content. So let's close this and I will open dashboard content. So for this dashboard, if you see, we have this search box label and we have this search box. So let's add again container here. I will say search container. And inside it, let's add H1. You can say search books. Let's give some class of search heading. And let's add a form. We don't need action here. And inside this form, we can add those input field. Now you can see it's displaying the search. We need one input field and one button here. So let's add input type equal to, we can say search, or let's say text only. Placeholder equal to search Google Books. Give some class search input. So you can see it's displaying. Now let's also add some class here, search form. So it will not be 100%. And we can add one more button here. You can say search. We can see button is displayed. Let's style this. So by default, Tailwind CSS remove all default styles. Let's say search. Now you can see button is also displayed. So we have this nice button with some placeholder of search. And we can click on this and it refreshes the page because it's a form. So when you submit the form, it will get refreshed. Also make sure to add by default type submit. So the form will automatically get submitted. Now below this, we want to display all the books once user clicks on search. So for that, we need to integrate the Google Books API. So let's search for Google Books API. So I always like to show you from where you can get that instead of directly telling the API, you can click on using the API. So if you want to learn more, you can always go to that particular documentation. So here there is a working with volumes, so and performing search. So just click on performing search. So this is the actual API which we will be making API call. And there are a couple of options we can pass that. So we'll see that later. So to make this API call, we will not be directly making API call inside this use effect hook. We are already using Redux Toolkit. So let's first set up Redux Toolkit. So we can make API call using Redux functions. So let me close all of this. Inside SRC, I will create Redux folder. Inside it, I will create feature. So if you are not aware of this Redux Toolkit, check out my previous webinar where I have covered Redux and Redux Toolkit from basics, absolutely from scratch. And we also built a couple of applications. So you will get better hands-on experience with it. Now we'll also create book slice. So each feature is known as slice. So I'll say book slice.js. So we'll not be writing any JSX code. So we are naming it JS. And also create store.js inside the Redux folder. So now let's import from add Redux.js toolkit. So always use add Redux.js toolkit, which is the latest and recommended way to work with Redux. So here we'll import configure store. So when you create store with configure store, you automatically get dev tools also. You don't need to manually add dev tools configuration. So here you need the reducer. And for this, we are working with books. So I'll say books, and we need to add a reducer here. So let's create a slice here. So inside it, we'll import something from add redux.js/toolkit. And what is that something? That is create slice. And we'll call it book slice, which is the file name also. Create slice. For this create slice, always press Control space, so we'll get suggestion, which is very important. So you will not make typing mistake. So here is reducers, and inside here we have reducer. Make sure to press Control space. So we need to give name first. So let's give books, and we need initial state. So for this, we'll be making API call. So we'll have loading state. So if loading will be false initially. Error message, it will be empty. And we'll have data, which will be array of books. So I always like to call it data instead of books. So for inside the store, we can name it books. So we'll see that now. So here we also need, yeah, for now it is fine. And we can export something, export default book slice dot. If you see, we have list of properties. So one of them is reducer. So we need this reducer. So we are exporting as default. So let's import that reducer book slice. And we'll rename this to reducer. So the default export, so you can name it anything. So this is the books reducer that we are exporting as default. And now let's export default store. You can also add subscribe method if you want to see the latest changes in each of the. So whenever the reducer gets updated, you will automatically get. Whenever the store gets updated, you will automatically get the state updated store state. So I'll say store.get state. But this is optional. You don't need to use this because we will be using Redux dev tool, not this console.log every time to see if it's getting updated. So now we have added this book slice. Now to make the API call, we'll be using async function. So we have already seen. So let's call it getBooks API call, and we'll use create async function. And for this, we can say book/get. We need to pass the second argument, which is a function which always returns a promise. So to create a function which returns promise, you declare it as async. And inside it, we'll write API call. Axios dot get, and we need that URL. So this is our URL. So if you directly access here and let's search for Batman, you can see you get all the data which is required. So by default, you will get 10 results. So, but we don't want 10 results. So here, in addition to this, we also have, you can see API specific query parameter. So we can also pass max results. You can see max results, and there is also start index. So we'll be having pagination. So we need both of these properties, query parameters. So let's say, so by default you get 10. If I say max results equal to, let's say 12. So we'll displaying 12 items on each page. So this, now you can see you get 12 books. Each book has this, all the information. You can say description is also there and all other information. Now we also need start index equal to, let's say, for now, initially we'll say 1. So we'll get 1 result. So we'll use this particular URL. So now instead of this, let's use template literal syntax. So this will be constant. This query, you will get it here. So you will automatically get the arguments that you are passing while calling this here. So you need to pass it as object because that is the first parameter you will get. So here I will call it search term, and we call it max results. And we can also say start index. So we'll be passing these values while calling that API. And now we can replace it here. Search term, max results will be dollar of max results, and start index, dollar of start index. So let's declare this max results. We'll be always keeping it constant. Only the start index will be changing. So inside constants, we can declare one more constant, max books count. It's a 12. So this will be the max results. Now start index is all fine, and you will get the data. So Axios response always comes in the data cluster. Make sure to use await. Don't forget that. And we need to return whatever data we are getting. Now, as we are using create async function, as we have already seen in previous webinar, we need to use extra reducers. So you will be declaring it like a function. You will get builder, and this builder dot add case. So depending on the state of this particular promise of get books, so you can say get books dot pending. So if it's pending, you will execute some code. So what is that code? You will be setting this is loading, state dot is loading equal to true. So while when you make the API call, loading will be true, error message will be empty. Let's duplicate this. And once the API call is successful in the fulfill state, here we don't need action. So is loading will be false here. Error message we don't need to set. State.data. Because error message we are already setting it to empty here. So once you get that data, you directly set data to action.payload. So whatever you are returning from this particular function, this return data, it will automatically come as action.payload. So you don't need to specifically send it. Now let's duplicate it. So during successful, loading will be false. During rejection, if there is any failure in the API call, is loading will be false. State dot error message. You can say error while getting list of books. Try again later. We don't need to set data here if there is any error. Now we also need to export this. So as a named export, so we can call this API from our dashboard page. So this is exported. This is all looks fine. Here store, inside store, we are naming it books. Now let's go to dashboard, And here we can call that API. So again, we'll be using not use effect. So once you click on this button, so let's add a function here handle search. Once we submit that form, we'll call handle search. And here we can dispatch that action. So make sure you dispatch. So how to get dispatch? Using use dispatch from React. And we need to call get books. So always remember to dispatch. If you just call, it will not get called. Now for the get books, what you need to pass this object with three properties: search term, max result, and starting. So how to get this data? For max, whatever user is typing, we are not storing it. So let's declare a ref here instead of let's declare it. Yeah, ref is fine because we're not using passing to any other component. We'll call it search term equal to use ref. So it will also be performance. So it will not re-render this component every time. So I'll say ref equal to search term. Search. Now here it's a search term. So the property that we are expecting is search term, and its value will come from search term dot current. So as we are using a ref, it has a current property, and let's initialize with empty value initially. And we also need max results. Another property, max results, whose value will come from books. What was that name? Max books count. Let's import this. And we need start index. So let's declare a state for this start index. So we'll be changing that every time we click on next or previous button, we'll be changing that index. So that's why we are declaring it as a state. So once you set the component will re-render, you will get new data. Set index, set start index, use state, so to import from React, and by default the index will be 1. So starting with index 1, make sure it's 1, not 0, because that's the Google API index. You need to give starting with 1. So now this index we are passing. So this all looks fine. So let's try it. There is some error, I think. So we are getting this error, could not find React Redux, because inside the main, we need to wrap our entire application inside provider. Then only we can access any of the store. Now for this provider, you need to pass mandatory store prop, which is this store which we created, which is from this store.js. So this is the store that you need to pass. So now if you refresh, you can see we are not getting any error. Let's close this. And let's also print that data coming from that API. So here, how to get that data now? So once the store gets updated, so what we are doing here, we are making the API call here. So depending on the state of that particular promise, this data property we are updating here. So the store will get updated, and you can see that store updated here inside the Redux dev tool. So by default, you can see books is an object with 3 property where data is empty. Now let's make that API call. So I will search for, let's say, Joker. I will click enter. Actually, the page is getting refreshed. So we need to make sure we are using event.prevent default, because that is the default action of form submission. Default, make sure to type it correctly, prevent default. Then only it will work. So casing is very important, is kept. So now let me remove that question mark, go to dashboard. I will search for Joker, press enter. Now you can see initially it's in pending state. So depending on the name that you have given, book/get, it will automatically add that /pending or /fulfill. So during pending, you can see loading is true, error message is empty, data is empty. Once it gets fulfilled, you can see you get all the data that you need. So this is the items. So you can see you get from 0 to 11, which means 12 items you correctly get. If you go to network tab, you can also see that API. You can see here we are sending that queue input. Oh, the data search term, we are not sending it correctly. So let's go here. So it should be current.value because it's an input field. So initially make sure to add optional chaining, because initially this current, it is an empty string. So we don't need this option here. Let's refresh this. So I will say Joker. Now you can see you correctly send this Q, which is a query parameter. So volume Q equals Joker, max results 12, start index 1. So here is the data query string that we are passing, and you get all the data which is the correct information of that particular book. Now we just need to display that book. So we need to get this data. You can see the state gets updated, and you will see that state logged in the console. Now we want to get that Redux store data that we are getting here. Inside data, we have items. So items contains all the Redux store, all the books that we have, and total items is the number of books, total books available, which you can use to for the pagination. So to identify how many pages we need to display. So to get this store data inside the dashboard, we can use selector hook from React Redux. State, you will get the state, and from this state, what you need. So if you take the store, so this is the particular store, which is an object. So we need store dot books. So here it will be state dot books. And what it contains, so it has this reducer. So it has three properties. The initial state, what is that initial state? Is loading, error message, and data. So here we'll destructure these three properties. Is loading, error msg, and data. So yeah, data is fine. Now that's why we are calling this particular data not books, because here we are calling it books. If you call it data, what will happen? It will be state dot data, and from that data, what I said here. So if it's books, so here if you call this particular books, what will happen? It will be state dot books, and from this you will be getting books again. So which is a bit confusing. So always I like to call it data here, and here you name it books. So from books, you are destructuring the data property. So now actual data is inside this particular items property. So let's see what error you are getting. Cannot destructure is loading. Use selector state dot, it should be books, because this is the object. Now you correctly get that data. Let's search for Joker again and check this Redux. So actual data is in the items property. So inside here, you can call books equal to data dot items. And we can also store the number of total books. Total books equal to data dot total items. Now these books we can iterate over and display them. So after this form, let's first display loading. So if it's loading, then we'll display loading message. For this loading, let's use text center, margin Y5, then text Excel, and we can say tracking wider. So there will be some letter spacing between. So if I refresh this page or click on search, you can see loading is displayed here. If I make this bigger, you will still see that loading is displayed here. So before the API call, the loading will be true. And once we get that data, we'll be displaying this. So let's also display error message. If there is error message, then we will display error message as it is. And for this, let's give text red of 500. So it will be in red color. So if you make any error in the API call, let's say I will make this URL wrong. And now if you hit that API call, you can see error while getting list of books. Try again later. If I close this, you can see it displaying correctly. So if there is any error, you will get that error message. And if you check the Redux store, it's now triggering that rejection action. So during rejection, your data is empty, error message gets set. During pending, your data is empty, error message is empty. So that's how Redux Toolkit automatically handles that error. So as we are using await, you don't need to wrap that in try catch, because create async thunk automatically handles that a rejection, and it will automatically call this particular code once that gets rejected. That's the beauty of this create async thunk. Now we have all the data. Let's display the data here. Now let's go to dashboard again. After this loading, let's declare a div, and let's call this div class equal to books grade. So we are using grade, CSS grade, and here let's display those books. Books.map for individual book will return a div And what will be displaying? Make sure always add a key. Don't forget that it will be book.id. So each of the book, if you see, let's first fix that URL so you can see that data. Let's save this. Cannot read properties. Yeah, so initially you can see initially the data is empty array, and we are this items property will not be there, so it will be undefined, and we are using map method, so you cannot use map on undefined. So you can use optional chaining here, or you can also assign a zero empty array here. So if there is no items property, we'll use empty array, and here we'll use zero. So you don't need to use optional chaining. So always try to avoid optional chaining because browser need to add extra code to handle that. So now let's search for Docker again, and you will get that data. You can see hello is getting displayed here. So that means the data is coming correct. So here instead of hello, we'll be displaying that book information. So here do we have already added. So each of the book, if you see items, each of the book has an ID property, which is the unique ID of that particular book. So we are using that ID here. Let's give class book card. And here let's add a link. So we'll have image. So let's import this link from React Router, and inside it will include that image. SRC. So how the image, from where that image will come. So image, there is inside volume info is the entire book information. So for each of the book, you have this ID and volume info. Volume info contains everything about that book. So inside that you will have image URL. You can see image links here. So image links has thumbnail and small thumbnail. So we'll be using thumbnail here. So that volume info. So here it will be book dot volume info dot image links. So some books might not have images, so always use optional chaining, and here you use thumbnail. So that is thumbnail property inside image links. Thumbnail, make sure to type it correct. And I'll always add alternate text. So it will also be book dot volume info dot. If you see here, each of the books has the name or title property. It's title. So you can use that title as the alternative. And let's give class name of book hyphen image. So let's see how it displays. You can see the image is getting displayed correctly. If I close this, you can see it displays nicely. So all the 12 elements of books are displayed because we are saying max results of 12 on per page. So now below this image, we need to display that title. So inside below here, link, let's add a shoe, and we can say book dot again volume info dot title. Now you can see title is also displayed. So let's style this better. We can make it book title. Now you can see there is some margin. And below this title, we also need to display button add to wish list. For now, we'll hard code this. Later, it will change to whether that will be add to wish list or added to wish list. Now let's give some class here. So we can call it wish list button. And along with that, we can also add, by default, it will be wish list not added. So we have already defined this class. Now you can see it's green. So by default, it's not added to wish list. Once you click that, you will be adding a new class. So this class will be dynamic. So we'll add that later. So now we have this button add to wish list, and everything is displaying properly. So let's add some pagination below now. So we also need to display. So before this add to wish list, so if you see the final application, we have this icon also. So let's add that icon. So here we can add some icon. So we can again say FA bookmark from React icon slash FA. And here I can say add to wish list. So now you can see it's displaying that particular icon. So it will go. So now we have button here. Books grid is also added. This is the div. Now let's display that pagination. So if so we want to display this pagination only if there are books. By default, we don't want to display. So if I refresh this page, we don't want to display this pagination. So here, let's add that condition if books.length is greater than 0, then only will display that pagination. So here let's add a div. So it should be books dot line. You can see there is a dot is there. So anytime you see the dot, that means there is something wrong. So it's clearly saying that did you mean books? So make sure to type it correct. So VS Code is really helpful to identify if there is any error. So here we'll say pagination container again. And inside this pagination container, let's add a span. And here we can display the page. And let's say page, let's add a counter here, state, page number, or we can say current page. Set current page. So we'll be changing that. Current page by default, current page will be 1. Here we'll say current page. It will be first. Now let's style this. I can call it page number. For shoots, you can see page 1 is getting displayed. Now below this span, let's add the, and we can call it pagination. We can say navigation buttons. Now inside this, let's add 2 buttons. We need previous and next button. So we can call it previous. So you can see the previous button is getting displayed here, but it's not styled better. So let's style this button. So for this button, we can give class name of previous button. You can see now there is a rounded border and text is also large. But on the first page, we don't want to make it enabled. So here, let's add this conditionally. Dollar of if current page is equal to 1, then we'll add previous disabled. Otherwise we'll add previous enable. So these are classes we have already defined in Tailwind .css file. Now you can see on the first page it's disabled, so you will not be able to go back to the previous. Now let me add one more button, and it will be next. So for this next button, let's add some class. I will again use conditional. I will say next button, and if dollar of current page. So we need to disable this next also if we are on the last page. So how we can find out the last page? So here we can declare a constant. So to find out total pages, let me remove that first so we will not have warning. Oh, no, this is fine. Where we are making error here. So let's see total pages. So how to calculate total pages? So total pages will be total books divided by number of books per pages, which is the max books count. So if I print this total pages, so you can see total pages, it's coming as 401.33. So I don't want this decimal point. So that means there is some page after 401 also. So I want to display 402 pages. So instead of directly using this, we'll use math.c, and I will add that here. Now, if you check, you can see you correctly get 402 pages. Now, this is the total pages, and here we need to add a condition. So, if current page is equal to total pages, then we'll add next disabled, otherwise next enabled. So, we will not see that functionality right now because we have all the pages. So, if you want to see that next disabled, you can make that total pages, which is max book count equal to total items. So let's say total items equal to 9. So now you can see it's disabled. So how it's working? Total books is 9. 9 divided by 12. So it will be 1. You will get 1. So total pages. If current page 1 equal to total pages, then we are adding next disabled. So it correctly works. Now let me revert it back. So it will always be enabled if you have more pages. So you can see this is also displaying nicely on mobile view. Page is displayed on the top. And here, if I make this larger, you can see page is displayed here. And now when I click on this, I want to go to the next page. So I want to see next list of books here. So let's add on click handler. So here I can add on click handle. Say on click equal to handle next click const handle next click. So what we want to do on this particular next click. So once I click on this next button, I want to increment the update the start index, and I also want to increment this current page. So set current page to the current page. We'll use the updater syntax. So you can also directly use current page plus one like this. So for the next click, you will increment that. Instead of this, we can use previous updater function syntax, previous plus previous one. And we only want to increment if it's not the last page. So here we need to add one more condition. So if current page is less than total pages, then only increment. So these total pages is we are getting here. If the current page is less than the total pages, then only increment. For the last page, we don't want to increment that. So this is handle next click, also add handle previous click. So once you are clicking on that previous button, we want to set current page to previous minus one. So now here the condition will not be this. Here, if the current page is greater than one, then only will be decrementing. So if you are already on the next page, that means the current page is two or more, then only you will be decrementing. Now this handle previous, let's add on click handler here, handle previous. Now we are just updating that value, but we want to make API call to get that data again. So let's create another function and then, or I can say get books, search books. Let's call it search. And inside this particular function, we call this. We call search. Now before calling, I want to get that start index. So when I click on next, I want to increase that start index. So here, what will be the start index? Instead of setting this start index here, are we using this start index somewhere else? No, we are only using here. We are not using anywhere else. So let's remove this state. And here we can say start index equal to current page minus one into number of, what can say, books per page. So where is our per page books? Max books count. So this is 12. So here max books count. So that will be the start index. So initially start in the current index, current page is 1. So 1 minus 1, it will be 0. So first time when you click on that search button, it will be 0 into 12. It will be 0. So start index will be 0 here. Now, next time when you click on the next button, we are incrementing this current page. So when you click on next button, we are incrementing this current page. So the current page will become 2. 2 minus 1, it will be 1. 1 into 12, it will be 12. So start index will be 12. So it will start from the 12th book list, from the list. So we are passing this start index and you will correctly get the data. So now we are calling this search books. Once you click on the handle search. So we also need to call this when the page is changed. So here, let's add use effect. So when the current page changes, we again need to call the search box. And current page is by default 1. So this is fine. So now let's refresh this. We are having some error. Let's see what error is there. Current page. So here, first we need to check if there is something user has typed. So if this search term current.value, if it exists, then only we want to call. So this use effect executes initially also when the current page is 1. So on the when the component is mounted. So but we don't want to make API call on page load itself. Only when user types here. So now you can see there is no error. So now this will work correct. So now let's search for Joker. You can see you get all the books 12 result for that joker. And now we have next one. Now let's click on the network tab. When I click on next, you can see now the start index for this is 12 and now max result 12. So you get a different list of books. So when I click again, you can see you again get different list of. So you are correctly able to make that API call. Now start index is 24. So you correctly get those books. Now you can see previous is enabled. I can click on previous and I can get this previous list of books. Some of the books don't have images, so you see that broken image, but that is fine. That is not our issue. So the books are not having some image. So you can see on the first page, the previous button is disabled. When I click on next, now you are in the next page, second page. So previous is enabled. I can go to next page again to see the next. I can click on previous to come back to the previous page. And now this is on the page. So we are correctly able to load those pages based on the current page. So what we are doing, so first time this component is loaded, this use effect will get triggered. Even if there is a dependency, always use effect will trigger after render. So we are calling search books one. Here we are checking if there is something typed, some values present in that search term, which will be empty initially because we are saying it empty. So it will not go inside it. Only if there is value, it will call that get books API. So once you click on search button or press enter, this handle search method will get called. Here we are calling the search books manually. So at that time you will have that value. We are making API call, you will get that data. As we are using use selector, whenever the store gets updated, the component will re-render, you will get that all the data which is coming from that API. It will have items property, which is actual books. Total items will be total books available. Total pages we calculate based on the total books and the number of books we are displaying per page. And whenever we click on next, we are setting the current page. So we are incrementing if you click on next. When you click on previous, we are decrementing. And whenever that current page value changes, in this use effect, we are again calling the search books API. And again, we are making API call with new start index. So always we are counting or updating this particular start index. So depending on the current page. So that's how we are successfully able to get this data. Now, when you click on this add to wish list, I want to add that element to the wish list. So let's see how to do that.